Hey, Brian here from rvwithtito.com, and I've got what you might say is a love-hate relationship here with the automatic steps on the RV. If you remember last year, the steps just weren't working at all anymore, and we'd been using this temporary chunk of wood to get in and out. And I ultimately fixed it by replacing the motor, and it's been working fine ever since. But recently, we returned home to this. Yeah, not good, but I think I know what I might have been doing to help this fail, but I'll tell you a little bit more about that later. So let's take a closer look at this and see if we can get it fixed. All right, let me first disconnect power to this step so there's no opening and closing while I'm underneath, and then I'll crawl underneath and show you how this whole mechanism works, or doesn't work in this case. So there are three main pieces here to this mechanism. The first one is the motor. So this is the one that I replaced last year. You can see that it's nice and fairly new looking and pretty easy to replace. You just disconnect power and pull these three bolts out, and you can swap it out. Now it drives the gear assembly, which is behind it, and the gear assembly here actually is the gears that turn this arm right here, and that arm twists this rod that's right over here that goes across the whole step, which causes the step to move in and out. Now the third piece here is this control board, this control box, and this is where all the brains and electronics are, and the switching for this mechanism. Now my assumption here is that you know, this is fairly new, so I got a pretty new motor. I'm hoping that's not bad, and since it sounds like there's something turning in here and that's, you know, that's not engaging, I'm going to assume that the problem here is with the gear assembly, and it's probably not going to be the brain there, the electronics, because it definitely sounds like it's a moving part that has died, and you know, the only moving parts are in the motor here and the gear assembly. Let's take it off and take a closer look and just see if we can confirm what the problem is. Now you got to kind of finagle this because it's engaged in the gear mechanism, so just kind of have to take your time, do a little wiggling, and eventually it'll loosen up. Oh, there we go. Don't lose any pieces that fly out. All right, now to get the gearbox out, there's 4 bolts, one on either corner, and there's also a pin that holds this arm in place that controls this rod. So let's start by removing those bolts. If I get the right socket. That's not the right one. Now these are a little bit rusty. When I put these on, I think I'm going to replace them with some stainless steel bolts. Just going to loosen them a little bit. Okay, and a couple more. Okay, now this is just going to hang for a sec. Okay, now we got to remove this this pin in here. It's got a little safety wire in here that I can just probably loosen up by hand. I'm going to replace this too. Looks a little bit rusty. Okay, pull that out. There we go. Okay, pull that out. And then now the motor, or actually the gear assembly, is out. So you can see with that pin in there, it moves. If I move the step in and out, you know, by rotating these two pieces here, the whole assembly can go in and out. All right, let's take a close up at this this whole assembly here. So this is the gear assembly, and you can see as this arm moves around like this, actually it's going to go this way, I believe. Gear inside is moving and controlling this. The motor here actually has this gear piece that sits inside here like that, and as it spins, it rotates this gear. So if we put that on here, you can see how it just, oops, be careful. You know, it just sits on top like this, and then you know, drives this gear. I mean, it looks okay, but oh, there's the culprit right there. Look at that. So it looks like the teeth are some teeth are worn out, but look at this right here. We've got a couple of missing teeth that look like they just broke off. So you can see here where there should be some teeth and they're worn down or just snapped off. As the step goes all the way in, that's when these teeth are on this this gear here, which is just starts spinning right about there. And but on the way out, if I rotate it out, these gears seem to be fine. It's just when it gets to this point here. Well, I picked up a replacement gear assembly, but when I first looked at it, I figured, oh no, this isn't going to work because it's a little bit different. So here's the new one here in the box, and you can see that, you know, obviously it looks new, but the arm on this one has got this bend in it, right? So at first glance, I figured it may not work because on the one I took out, it's got this straight arm. But after I started looking at it further, I realized it was probably going to work just fine, because if I measured the distance between the this piece here that hooks on with that pin, it looked to be about the same. So and the movement seemed to be correct. So I think it's going to work. It already came pre-greased and with a new gear inside here that I'll attach to the motor. All right, now I'm going to just reassemble this in the reverse order. Alright, now I'm going to put this rod in here. See, it looks like it actually fits in there just fine. Should rotate just fine. I lubed it up a little bit. Should slip right in. Right about there. There we go. Now for now I'm just going to use this existing little piece of wire to keep it in there. I'll put a new one in later. Wrap it around. It doesn't have to be too tight, just enough to keep that pin in place. Once there's pressure on this step, it's not going to come loose. So once this activates, it's going to be some pressure on there. All right, the gear assembly is in place. Now let's put the motor back in. Just gonna have to finagle this to get it just right, because it has to lock in those gears. So just kind of move it around a little bit. You can even move the step a little bit until it engages. You want it to be just, when it locks in, you'll feel it. There we go. See, there we go. It locks right in. Looking nice and shiny, isn't it? One more. Okay, we're all set up. All I have to do is reconnect the power. I already have the main power disconnected, so I'm going to plug this in. Make sure you're out of the way, just in case. Plug it back in. And then now I'm going to reconnect the main power here. Okay, here's the main power connector. Make sure you're out of the way. And then, there we go. It's powered. I'll tidy this up with some zip ties. Verify that everything is working okay. So yeah, it's pretty taut right now. Right now the step is, it's pretty firm. All right, looking good. Ugh. This is the hardest part, is actually crawling around underneath the step here, because I'm on gravel and rocks. Not comfortable. All right, let's test this sucker out. Ready for the moment of truth? Here we go. My hands are dirty. Yo, closing the door. Ooh. No rat-a-tat-tat-tat. Let's try that again. Out. In. I like it. I think that that new gear mechanism is actually better, because it actually has that little extra, this extra tightening right at the end. That's probably because of that extra bend. Now, in the beginning of the video, I had mentioned that I may have an idea of what I might have been doing that would cause this problem, and it's definitely something you shouldn't do, but I get a little impatient sometimes and I do this. So when my engine's running, there's a safety mechanism in here that automatically closes the step. But while the engine's running, sometimes I'm running in and out of the RV, checking things before we pull out, and each time I do that, the step comes out. But I get a little impatient, and I definitely may step on the step as it's coming out and not waiting for it to fully extend. So, you know, like I'm gonna close the door, and I'm like, oh no, I need to check this, and I'll step on the step as it's coming out, and I know that puts extra strain on that gear mechanism and the motor when I do that. So yeah, I could have caused this problem myself, but at least I know how to fix it. And if you have this problem, at least now you know how to fix it. And I'll put links to the other video if you want to see more detail about how I repaired the and replaced the motor. It's also pretty easy. You kind of saw me swap it out right there. But I hope this is helpful, and I hope this never happens to you, but now you know how to fix it if it does. So take care, and I will see you in the next one.